Publius Cornelius Scipio, now nicknamed the African, had taken Cartagena in 2 days, had defeated Hasdrubal Barca, and had expanded the territories of Rome on the peninsula. The end of Carthage in Hispania was near. In the year 546 since the foundation of Rome, Silano, one of my officers, had quelled a Celtiberian rebellion that threatened the integrity of our territories, while Lucius, another of my officers, had taken Oringius. We were finally besieging Magan Barca and Hasdrubal Guiscan. In the year 547, since the foundation of Rome, I left with my men from Tarraco to end the Carthaginian resistance on the peninsula. I convinced thousands of Iberians to join my cause along the way. They understood that the balance was tipping in my favor. The Carthaginian armies, now merged into one, under the command of Hasdrubal Gisco, were located in the Guadalquivir valley near Ilipa. According to my informants, the Carthaginians had 70,000 infantry, 4,000 horsemen, and about 30 elephants. Their infantry was made up of veteran Carthaginian warriors, new levies from Africa, and Iberian troops. Our side had only 45,000 infantry, including legionnaires and Iberians, and around 3,000 horsemen. They outnumbered me, but that didn't worry me. I would defeat them by outmaneuvering them tactically. I had to try. The 3-year war in Hispania was lasting too long, distracting us from the real goal of taking the war to Carthaginian territory in Africa. We arrived near the Punum camp, and I was amazed by the battlefield. It seemed as if the gods had designed it for us to fight there. On that day, it was a nearly flat, ideal battlefield for the regions of Rome, lacking fences, rocks, and vegetation. We set up our camp, and that same day we set in motion the plan, which had been maturing since we left Tarraco. We went to the battlefield in a typical formation: legionnaires in the center, Iberians on the flanks, and cavalry on the wings. As soon as Giscon saw us form, he ordered his men to leave the camp and form in front of us. His battle formation met my expectations. With one exception, the elephants. His African troops were in the center, flanked by the Iberians, and this is where the elephants were. I positioned them at the center front to charge and disrupt the enemy, before the infantry charged. I smiled, recalling the madness of making Iberians fight alongside elephants. Finally, his Numidian cavalry was on the wings. The day passed and nothing happened. At sunset, both armies returned to their respective camps without shedding blood. For now, everything was going well. Man is a creature of habit, and this was demonstrated in this battle. For 7 days, we always went out at noon, and we formed in the same way without varying a single centimeter. I noticed Giscon's growing confidence as his men leisurely ate breakfast long after sunrise. The bonfires gave them away. I had ordered the same, to have breakfast at the same time as the enemy, but everything changed on the 8th day. I ordered my men to have a cold breakfast before dawn. I didn't want the bonfires to give us away. After breakfast, we lined up on the battlefield. But this time my formation had changed drastically. The Siberians now formed the center of my army, while my legionnaires were on the flanks. In hindsight, it appears ironic. With all due respect, I was using the same strategy that I used against Hasdrubal Barca, my light troops in the center and the heavy ones on the flanks. When Giscon saw that we had deployed and were advancing, he ordered his men to go out and fight. Hadn't they had breakfast? Again, another irony. Were Giscon's men, like those of Hasdrubal Barca, going to fight on an empty stomach? I ordered to halt the advance. And there we were, face to face, the Carthaginians in the same formation, watching us with their heads. They should have no other desire than to eat and drink. With the sun high in the sky, that thought would be quite recurrent. The idea was simple. If Giscon was smart, he would attack before his men began to feel the lack of strength from not having breakfast. But if he wasn't, would he wait for us to attack? And I swear by the gods that we would only do so when the Carthaginians were starving. After several hours face to face, I watched as carts left the Carthaginian camp, heading towards their army. Gisco intended to feed his men. It was the signal I was waiting for. His soldiers were likely starving. We set off moving in a block, and as soon as we started walking, the enemy army also began to march. Hadn't they had time to eat? The distance was reduced to the point of the maximum reach of a javelin. My ballistas launched their projectiles aiming at the elephants, and as quickly as they threw them, they ran after the heavy infantry. The Astaches then threw the pila, also aiming at the elephants. These beasts, enraged and furious from the pain, began to kick everything around them, stopping the charge. It was unclear whether the elephants or the Iberians were more afraid of each other. The Iberian charge had been shattered by these huge beasts, at which point my Astati charged against the enemy flanks. As for the center, again, it would be my weak point. I had in my memory how the Iberians had fled from the armies of my uncle and my father, and how this had led to their defeat. To avoid this, I highlighted various turmi of cavalry in the Iberian rear. It was just a mere dissuasory movement. If they kept their word and fought, they would suffer many casualties against the African veterans. But it was a price he was willing to pay. My flanks would take care of winning the battle again. In half an hour, the African elephants were completely killed. Their corpses lay like huge obstacles among the Iberian ranks. But even so, the combat was stalled all along the front. I ordered the princes to enter combat, and for the Astates to withdraw and rest. The weary and famished Iberians suddenly found themselves battling fresh, experienced troops. They found themselves striking a wall of shields, scarlet, and falling before the treacherous gladius that peeked through the gaps. The only apparent way the Iberians had to replace the warriors of the front lines was when they died or were seriously injured. A too rudimentary way to fight against a rested enemy. He might not have done anything. My flanks would at some point put the Iberians to flight, I had no doubt about that. But for that very reason, because of the ease with which the Iberians flee from the battlefield when faced with a disciplined enemy, in closed formation, that's why I had to act. My Iberians in the center could be swept away by the African pikemen. As I started phase 2 of the plan, I ordered my Balites to flank the Iberians and my cavalry to fight against Giscon's Numidians and charge against the rear guard. My Balites surrounded the Iberians, prepared their javelins, and rained down iron on the sides of the Iberian infantry. Those who were fighting against the Romans from the front could not protect themselves from the Balites, and dozens of warriors died instantly. But that would be just the first of the barrages, although I will narrate that later. In the next video, I will tell how my legions began to gain ground until the gods, mocking me and my men, forced me to retreat. I will narrate how we continued fighting and how I won the battle. I will narrate how Hispania came under Roman rule. If you want to know the context in which this battle took place, click on the video shown on screen and don't forget to hit like if you liked it. If you also want to know more about the history of Hispania and discover more battles, subscribe to the channel to stay updated on new videos.